can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs like the founders of P90X, Atari, many more, how they overcome big challenges in life and business. This is part of the Prosper Show e-commerce mastery series, where top sellers and experts teach you what really works to boost your e-commerce business. Our sponsor today is Rise25.com, which helps service professionals, doctors, lawyers, accountants, coaches, diversify and create additional revenue streams and stop just trading time for dollars. Go to rise25.com, learn more. It's run by myself, co-founder John Corcoran. It's application only. I'm very excited. Today, it's been a long time coming. We have Jay Lagarde, who founded Ecomm Engine back in 2006. They have a suite of software products used by Amazon sellers to increase revenue and get more reviews, which obviously all Amazon sellers want. They have feedback automation tool called Feedback 5, which we're going to talk about, an inventory management tool called Restock Pro, and a product research tool called Ecom Spy. And they were the first feedback management tool on Amazon, and because of that, they have a lot of large sellers that use the tools. And a fun fact about Jay is way back when, he created the first comprehensive website in the world that automated the regulatory process. So his technical roots go way back. Jay, thanks for joining me.
Thanks very much, Jeremy. Glad to be here and look forward to chatting with you.
You know, I'm excited because you have some really cool tools that help Amazon sellers, but it didn't always start as a software as a service. So I want you to talk about the beginning part of what now is Ecomm Engine.
Right. That's a good question. At the time when Ecom Engine was started, we had no idea that it was going to be a company like it is today. It was really kind of I would say, an ad hoc company. I just started getting requests to help a friend. My friend that's selling on Amazon, or a client of mine is selling on Amazon. You're a technology guy. They have a problem I think you can talk with. Could you hop on the phone and talk to them? And after doing that for a month or so and having a lot of chats with people and saying, here's what you need to do, here's what you need to do, you need to think like this, and then they said, well, could you do that for me? And I said, well,
what were some of the things they wanted at the time? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was really, a lot of it was automation. A lot of times, back in 2006, 2007, people were just getting into this game, and they had automation aches and pains. They had more. Sometimes they had unexpected success, and they realized that in order to scale, they were going to need to automate. A favorite story of mine from early on was a couple had a specialty in a certain domain. I won't say what it is, but I'd say this is probably 2006, maybe 2007. They had a specialty in a certain domain. They knew all about it. And they decided they were going to, just throw up a few things on Amazon, and all of a sudden, it really started taking off, and they started selling stuff. And before you know it, this lady had her garage was full. She was shipping stuff every day, and they were excited. I mean, she maybe had 40 or 50 things she was shipping every day, but she was also getting very stressed. And somehow somebody said, you need to, somebody put me together to have a long chat with her one day. And I had several chats with her. We went on and on. She had these problems. She was going to the post office every day, and she had all these things to ship, and she really wanted to scale her business. She was very, very, frankly, she was stressed. I mean, she had so many things going on, and I said, look, you need to automate this.
Yeah.
This is of course, this is just 101 automation for all of our users here, but you need to get an order management system, you need to get Indicia, you need to get a label printer. And I gave her a list, and I said, I'm not going to charge you anything. I said, you go do this first, and then come back and talk to me, and then I'll tell you how, if you need any custom work from me. But you need to get the basics first. Yeah. And what she told me in response just floored me, and I remember it to this day. She says, I don't have time to do all that. You don't realize I have to spend every day, I've got hours I need to spend in the post office. And she was very earnest, and I was very earnest right back. I said, you don't have time, you don't have the ability not to do this.
Right.
I said, you don't realize you need to invest, several 10, 20, 30 hours of your time to buy this equipment and to learn how to use it, because you don't have
It'll free up
you
that
have no
amount
choice
per
not
week
to.
for her.
And
Yeah.
what I thought was obvious was not obvious to her, and that was just something I remember very distinctly very early on. But to answer your question about what did we automate,
Well, stick with that person for a second. So
yeah.
then you recommended Indicia. What were you recommending at the time? What software was around? Or
This was just, it was very ad hoc. So you can't say this is what I recommended. I mean, I listened to what she needed. She needed a label printer. I told her to go buy a Zebra label printer and get labels and buy Indicia and get, at the time, Stone Edge was a big order management
What would
system.
you recommend today if you were to talk to that lady right now?
Well, I'd have to mention a competitor if I did.
Oh, okay. A competitor of yours?
Maybe ShipStation or something like that for something as simple as what she needed.
Yeah.
They could probably do everything she needed. It would capture orders and print labels. Of course, inventory management and stuff gets layered on top of that. But her immediate low-hanging fruit needs were to, save 3 hours of her day every day.
Because I'm sure someone listening to this right now, there's someone listening to it who's probably experiencing that lady is experiencing that now. So
it's a little harder to experience exactly that problem now, just because the technology is more ubiquitous to solve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
But it is possible.
Yeah.
And it is possible. And so from a person that comes, and from a company that comes from the point of view of automation, it's really surprising that there are still opportunities for automation, but it only takes a few conversations with a few customers to realize, there are opportunities for automation. Yeah. And if you're going to compete in this, Amazon level playing field, it means you're going to be competing against people that are much, much bigger than you. And our whole passion from day one has been really to help small entrepreneurs and to let them really own their own business, own their own lives. And the whole idea of Ecomm Engine was to sort of enable that possibility for folks, and kind of bring a more of a big company software tool set and make it available to a smaller entrepreneurial seller that's trying to, carve out a business for themselves.
What did you end up doing? Did you end up doing some custom software for her, or what did you end up doing?
I spoke with her 2 or 3 times, and we had a very cordial conversation. I would like to hope she believed me at some point, but on that last call, I was not sure that I had convinced her. She was very, very skeptical that it was worth investing a few $1,000s in this software and equipment. And
what were you recommending at the time for her?
I think this is going back a long time, so I'm kind of guessing. I'm sure it was Indicia. I'm sure it was a label printer, and I'm sure it was something.
I mean,
like
from you though, like, what were you? Because you were going to do a custom project for her, right?
Nope.
Oh, you weren't.
No, I got, at that time, it was every 4th person I talked to did I think that it was worthy of pitching something to them. A lot of times it was hearing them out, and I was understanding what their needs were, and I was saying, well, you don't need me right now.
I think
what you need to think about is this. And some people say, well, I can do this for you, but it's going to cost you, for me to solve this problem for you is going to cost you this much. And it may have sounded like it wasn't a lot to us because we had to pay salaries and everything to make it work, but sounded like a lot to them. Is that you may not need that right now. Here's a lower level thing you can do. Come back to me. And frankly, that was part of what drove us to be more of a platform based model, because we recognized that the custom thing, as fun as it was to solve someone's problems, we were very limited in what we could do, and a lot of people didn't have the budget. And also, we also saw scenarios where you would talk to someone and they had a really good 6 months or even a really good year on Amazon, and they were just flying high and thinking this was they were ready for retirement.
The gravy train.
And you talk to them and you realize, I really hope you will be there, but they didn't really understand the risk in the market that I think we saw. We realized that, next year you're not going to be able to do the same thing that you did, last year. We're great you had success. So yeah, I could give them a big bill and say, I can build you this stuff for whatever. But I also had that little doubt that they were betting on as much success or growth and success the next year that they had the year before, and sometimes I wanted to preach caution.
Yeah.
We had a really great customer, really wonderful family, had a great store, and they were actually featured by Amazon. Amazon sent a video crew out to their place, and we were doing work for them, and towards the end of the project, they kept asking us to do more work, and they asked us to keep delay getting paid, and started making us anxious what was going on. And a few months later, they had all this inventory, and their sales had dwindled down, and they had to file, and we never got paid.
Wow. What type of products were they?
But yet they had great success, and so that's not to discourage anyone, but that is to kind of second the
Why did it dwindle, do you think?
Competition. These guys were selling toys, and they had gotten in early before toys were hot, and toys were then just becoming hot, and what was easy one year became much more competitive, and so the game became much more complex to get the right inventory mix and so forth. So,
were you doing a bunch of just larger custom projects for them, or?
We actually were doing a web store for them. We weren't automating their back-end system. We were creating an Amazon web store, a custom Amazon web store that was highly customized for their individual catalog, doing some custom catalog work for them.
Yeah. Jay, you see this across a lot of sellers, right? Because these are your customers. What are the big mistakes you see people are making on Amazon?
I don't know that there's any one big mistake. And frankly, I don't have as much one-on-one with customers as I used to have. But I would say, you need to be very positive. You need to be entrepreneurial. You need to look at different marketplaces. Amazon, of course, is where the growth is. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding anybody there.
You think people should diversify more?
A little bit, but not. They can even diversify on Amazon. In other words, they need to think. Let's optimize what I'm doing today. This is working. Let's try to do it a little better. Because if it's working easily, by all means, get profit where you are. But you also need to think about what's the next game. What's the next product? Because there's no guarantee that what you're doing today is gonna work tomorrow.
Yeah, I want you to talk a little bit about the transition from. We were talking before. It seems obvious now, but it's hard. The transition from you're kind of doing the consulting and bigger projects at maybe $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, and I think you said to me one time, that doesn't get you a lot of software, even for that price point.
Not if it's pure custom. No.
Yeah, and then wanting to support small sellers. Talk about the difficulty of that transition mentally, and then actually having to do it, because then you have to turn away business that are bigger projects too.
Yeah, really we would have become more of a SaaS company early on. We would have done Feedback 5 and other things more rapidly, but we had customers that we had become friends with over the years, and then friends of friends kind of a thing, and it's very hard when you're a custom person and you really enjoy getting into a deep dive conversation with a smart Amazon seller about their problem, whatever it may be. And we really enjoyed solving those problems and solving it, theoretically or on paper, and writing it down and saying it's fun. But we ended up realizing that, number one, you don't get all those jobs because the sticker sometimes the sticker cost sometimes comes out bigger than.
What's the largest proposal you put out? Largest dollar amount at the time?
Well, our biggest job.
Not saying you got it, but that's just realistically what you would have charged for a project.
Well, a big job for us would have been $100,000, and we didn't do it because it wasn't really our thing. That would be a very large job for us.
Yeah.
A small job would be $5,000 and everywhere in between.
Yeah.
$2,000 for a very small job, $5,000. So these are little jobs. But our biggest job, it wasn't so much a quote, but we were actually doing some web store work at the time. We were very closely partnered with Amazon, and Amazon was actually sending us some clients to do web store work. And one of the clients, they sent us kind of indirectly, was a large company that had come to them and said, we want to create an Amazon web store experience. We want to put all this on an Amazon web store. And it would happen to be a very large multinational company. And so they came to us, and it was kind of just humorous that they would contact us for this, because we're just, guys in a garage almost. And so we ended up working with them. It's Lockheed Martin. I don't think it's anything. It's just a large company that does a lot of government contracting and whatnot. And they were trying to create the Amazon Web Store experience for a very antiquated sales process that they were shooting for a big government contract. And so we really worked hard for them for maybe 6 months. We developed all these prototype designs and all that. Unfortunately, they couldn't do what they wanted to do on the Amazon Web Store. The technology wasn't there, but we did prototype designs about how they could accomplish the things that they wanted to do, how they could map their catalog into an effective storefront design and all that. They loved it. And it's like, we thought, well, anybody in e-commerce can do this stuff, but they just ate it up, and so they use this stuff, and they claim that, and that's kind of an hourly billing type thing. If you ever talk to somebody that does government contracting, it's you bill your hours and you get paid and you go home and whatever. So we were working with lots of other contractors, all of them hugely bigger than us, on this project, and they submitted in for this $1 billion contract or whatever it was. And then a few months later, 6 months, well, it was more than a few months. It was almost a year later. They came back to us and said, "We got the contract. Now we want to do some real work with you." and I said, "Oh, really?" Cautiously. And they also sent about 1,000 pages of paper to us. Please read this and fill it out and sign it, whatever.
Well, why? Just as a contract?
It's just, all kinds of security things and blah, blah, blah. I couldn't read it all, needless to say. But also polling the staff we had, nobody wanted to do this.
Brilliant.
And it's not that they didn't want to, serve our country and involve, but it wasn't really exciting to them. It wasn't really our passion. For me, it was really tough because it was real money, and it was guaranteed money that, paid for by.
Why were you cautious at the time?
Cautious about what? You
said you were kind of caught, like when you heard that, you were like, you weren't overjoyed or excited about it.
Oh, no, I was overjoyed.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I was very pleased to hear that they got it. I was pleased that they wanted to offer us the job. I wasn't sure that I wanted to do it because I wasn't sure that was really our cup of tea.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure this was our real passion.
It's a big crossroads.
I'm sure that several of us were not passionate about it. I was kind of in the middle. But there are a lot of folks that just, they could do it, but at the end of the day, you bill your hours, but are you really feel like you're really making a difference? And we didn't really feel like we were making a difference because we could be at the table and you're dealing with 3 or 4 other major subcontractors that all have people at the table, and you can say the same thing 3 or 4 times, but at the end of the day, you're the last person that's on the pecking order. And so a lot of times there was a lot of rework. You'd do something, and then you'd realize, oh, we didn't give you the latest spec.
You don't have control.
You don't have security clearance for that, but maybe we could tell you just this. And there's all these kind of things. And so you just didn't feel like you could really deliver that value. We wanted to go out there and build something great, and we didn't have the control. That's exactly right. You said it exactly right. Yeah.
So this would have been a huge contract. So what do you tell them? What'd you end up doing?
Well, we said, really, we're flattered, and this is great, and we really appreciate it. But after we had some meetings on this, and I said, look, if we turn this down, we need to work really hard and make our platforms really grow and make them work and productive. And everybody said, yes, that's what we want to do. So we turned them down. We said, look, we've loved working with you, and I'm sure you'll find somebody else that can deliver the same value to you. We really appreciate it, but we're going to have to say no. And they came back a few more times, but they realized it just wasn't the right fit for us. And frankly, we would have had to put our best people on that project. So you put your best people on a project like that, and then they're not there to work on the core stuff back at home. So
that's a tough decision.
We decided to invest instead of taking that. And the same thing had happened. Even after that, we had many great requests from previous customers. Will you do this small request? Will you do this customer report? Will you do this thing? Will you do this one integration for me? And we kept saying yes a lot, but I would say in the last year or two, we pretty much avoid doing anything like that unless it's really closely connected with our core products that we're building.
That's a crossroads. You know, you almost get like, and it's not your dream client, but it's like contract wise for a company to get a client like that, it's huge. And then to realize this is not what we want to be doing. And at the time, SaaS was not like it is now, right? Talk about the uncertainty around the business model in general.
Well, it wasn't as ubiquitous of a term as it is now. Everybody knows the word SaaS. You pretty much say SaaS software, and now it's just software. Everything is SaaS, or nearly everything.
Yeah.
It wasn't that hasn't been that long, and for a while it was pretty clear to us that that's where things were going. We knew it, but SaaS has a risk associated with it. There's a lot of upfront investment. You don't get paid for all that upfront investment costs. So that's SaaS business model 101. That's lean.
I mean,
startup.
you're charging 30, 40, 50,000, and then you're like, wait, we're building this whole platform. We're not getting paid, and it's $50 a month. There's a big difference there.
Or it's $9 a month.
Right.
And you'll have some people for the very same product, they will tell you talk to two people in the same day, and one person will say, I can't believe you are charging so much for this thing. Can't you give it to me for half price? And you say, I'd love to give it to you for half price, but this is just our price and I can't do it. And they're very upset. They really want the tool, but they don't want to pay $9 a month. And then you'll talk to somebody else and say, I can't believe you're offering this for $9 a month. I would pay $100 a month for this tool. This is just delivering so much value to me. And so that's, just an example of the SaaS pricing model. Some people can't afford it, but want it. Other people would be happy to pay a lot more.
So it sounds like, Jay, you kind of went to the team and you kind of collectively said, we want to have a bigger mission. We want to have a bigger purpose, and we can't keep serving these clients for these special jobs. We want to build our own platform. That's
right.
Is that how it went?
That's exactly right. And we really felt, in addition to that, that was really the way we could deliver the most value. The market was growing. There were more and more needs, and we realized that we were a drop in the bucket. And if we wanted to really deliver value into the market and help as many people as possible, the way to do it was to have a platform with standardized software that would work for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, I talked to your name came up this week a lot because of this. This is a struggle for a lot of people to turn down a contract like that. Like that lands on your lap and you need to make a decision whether you go from the one-to-one work that is really, really high paying to a one-to-many that there's more uncertainty and you don't get paid as much.
Right. And you can build it, but you don't know they will come.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it was interesting how you went about it. You got the acceptance of the team, so you guys were all on board to go to move in this direction. It wasn't Absolutely. You kind of standing on a pedestal saying we're moving this direction. It sounded like it was a sort of a collective.
There was buy. There was a desire to see where's our passion, where's our energy. I mean that's the way for us. That's the way our team has been built. And
it's a risk for you though, because if you're paying the bills and you're building this platform, you're taking a big risk.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's was very tangible. Absolutely, yeah.
And so how do you decide what the first product is? So at this point, okay, we're not doing as much of the big contracts. We're going to shift to our own platform.
Right.
Now you have to decide on what the product is.
It wasn't quite that linear, but the point's well taken. And so, I mean, I think that Feedback 5 was still, we had already decided on Feedback 5.
You had?
I think so. Yeah,
just because and I think it's valuable because you were probably talking to all these people one-on-one, finding what their pain points are. And was that like a common pain point? Is that why you decided to go with Feedback 5?
Before Feedback 5 was started, we had a number of I would say, non-SaaSified platforms. They were multi-tenanted, but they weren't automated such that you could just sign off on the street. We had Smart Price. We didn't call it Feedback 5 at the time. We just called it our feedback solicitation tool. We had an integration platform where we would, integrate different things in the cloud, connect different orders and suppliers and things like that. And so Yeah, so I mean, just to be bluntly honest, I mean, I can remember we had a meeting of several of us where we decided that we were gonna build a platform that people could just come in and sign up. Which tool are we gonna pick to do that?
Right.
And we're gonna invest some
You're
time.
not going to say you
energy
brought like a dartboard and you just threw a dart at it or something.
Well, it wasn't that far from that. I mean, I'm going to be totally honest. I mean, we had a couple of things on the docket, and we just said, well, what do you think? Should we do this or should we do this? Should we do this? And we said, well, we think this would be the one that would be the quickest to get up and running and
the feedback one.
That's what we thought at the time. I think in retrospect, it proved to be. Like anything, there's always more to it than you first envision when you're starting to do things. But
Right.
but yeah, that's exactly right. We said we're going to pick one as a test and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the way it was picked. I'd like to tell you that we did very statistical and careful market studies and all.
Well,
that.
you did in a sense of talking to people one-on-one. I mean,
We absolutely talked to people,
Yeah.
and everybody was saying it was like really cool. People loved it because we did have a platform that did that. Now, of course, we totally rebuilt it from the ground up to do what we did, but we had a platform that was already do that. We may have had, a dozen people using it. I don't know, but it wasn't a huge number, but they all gave us great feedback. They loved it. It was helping them out. And that gave us, confidence, but it really, that doesn't mean you're going to be able to sell it to 100 people.
right.
It means you think you can, but you got to test it. Are people really going to pay? You don't know till it happens. And of course, we didn't know the word marketing at the time. We were just, geeks, engineer types, and we just didn't know. I mean, we knew the word marketing, but we didn't know a thing about that. You have to actually not just build something; you have to be able to tell people about it. We were much, there's this, what's it? A company, a Palantir, I think, is the the company out in California. They claim they have no marketers. All they have is engineers, and we really were a bit like that. We just didn't think about marketing. We just felt we'd have a website and people would come. So yeah, and another early on in Feedback 5, before it had really taken off, another little validation that we had gotten, and frankly, really surprised me, and was also very gratifying and encouraging, is that we had done this tool. We had a small critical mass of customers that were doing it, that were giving us feedback, and we said, we need to go out and actually talk to people and hear what they think about our tool. Let's be really bold. At the time, we thought this was really bold. We're going to actually go ask them if they would be willing to write a blurb or a testimonial about our tool, and we just thought maybe a few people will write back and we'll be thrilled. Well, it blew me away, the number of people that wrote back. And also it blew me away what they said.
Yeah, what was some of the feedback you were getting that was valuable?
Well, I think, first of all, the people that were generous enough to write back to us was surprising to us. They were generous. They had to take their time to spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it was to write something. That in and of itself was surprising. Gratifying and surprising. And secondly, what they said was more positive than us non-marketers would have said ourselves had we been asked to pitch the product. So they were saying things that were the way it was helping their business and what they loved about it, how it was designed and what it did for them, that were things that we were hopeful it was doing this, but we would have felt it was pushing the envelope if we would have written all these things ourselves.
Right.
So it was very gratifying to hear that, because that really was motivational. Yeah, this really is helping people. We knew it, but it was nice to hear it. And it was also, of course, part of the business of this is to hear, not only what's the value we're delivering, but what can we do more and what can we do better?
That's the question I have, because obviously the product itself, I'm sure, has changed from the beginning till now. So,
Sure.
And you listen to your customers. What are some things that you've realized there's a pain point with the customers? And this, if we're talking about Feedback 5, it's obviously around reviews and communication and feedback. What has changed in the product over the years?
Right. Well, the product has had a lot of iterations. We had a funny little internal thing. We did like a Wayback Machine with Feedback 5, the first website, the different iterations of it. But, one small thing is that, when we first started Feedback 5, there was no Amazon messaging system like it was today. You actually got the customer's email address. So most people coming into Amazon right now, that just blows them away to even think that Amazon would give you the email address. But yet we had everybody's email address.
Yeah.
And so our job, it was a very different part of the game there was deliverability. So you had to figure out.
You're an autoresponder now. I mean,
so we had to learn all about deliverability metrics, and we had to become mini experts on getting emails delivered. And we were pretty good at it, but it wasn't easy because we were sending from everybody's own domain. So we had to do deliverability for all of these domains out there, not just one domain to optimize on, but hundreds plus domains, or thousands really. And so that was something we had to become an expert on. That problem went, I mean, on the one hand,
so that was better for you when Amazon implemented this.
We were concerned about it, but on the one hand, it made that deliverability problem go away because Amazon took that up. So you know something about email, so you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But really, the tool has become increasingly, able to deal with higher volumes. We've got some very, very large customers being able to scale and be able to manage very, very reliably. Every time we say we're sending it and we're going to send it at a certain time, it sends at that time. So we very much have optimized it for over time. We've optimized it for kind of enterprise grade reliability. So it works for very small sellers, but it works for very huge sellers as well. Yeah. So that's something nobody sees. It's just in the back end, but it's an important component of the tool.
Yeah.
On the front end, it's just gone through lots of iterations, different front end technology. But I'll just mention two things that I think have been really important. Initially, we had a very simple campaign structure. We had first email, second email, and FBA versus non-FBA. That's what we had. Of course, FBA wasn't really around. We added that FBA component.
Right.
So it was a very simple campaign structure. It was very powerful, and many people still do very simple stuff like that. But with the rise of private labeling on the Amazon Marketplace, there became more of a need to do more custom sending of emails. And so we added a campaign management structure to it, which pretty much allowed for unlimited customizations of timing, of message, of all that sort of thing. So that was one change. And another change, recently is that we've really been focusing on not just feedback management, feedback solicitation, feedback monitoring, feedback management, but we're now doing the same thing for product reviews. And so we're able to monitor product reviews. We're able to capture product reviews. We're now starting product review analytics on our platform.
So how does that work? Like, I use, full disclosure, I use Feedback 5. I love it, actually. And, I don't know if this is what you're talking about, the product reviews, but if there's a neutral or negative review, you get a text message so that you can address it. Is that one thing you're talking about, or is that completely separate? Okay.
You absolutely can, yeah. So let's say that you've developed a brand for yourself and you want to watch those reviews, and you may or may not have the authority, you probably don't, but you could, to actually go in and respond officially on Vendor Central or whatever.
Yeah.
You probably don't. So what you can do is that you can find out what's going on. Number one, you do have ability to reach out to that customer, try to resolve their concerns. You can't really arm twist them at all to change the review, but if you correct an error, then you can change that review. You can also respond to the review. You can get on there and write a response and try to set the record straight. You have to exercise judgment and caution in all those matters. So monitoring product reviews in order to monitor what's going on the platform is important, but you're also getting a feedback loop about your product. And obviously you want only good reviews, would be great. But let's say the most recent batch of products that you got from your manufacturer has a glitch, or there's a problem in packaging or something, you missed it, or maybe it was hidden. You're going to find, you may find out about something. So not only do you want to watch the reviews, but you want to be able to observe patterns. So you've had good reviews for 6 months, and then the next manufacturing batch starts hitting, and you see something change. Well, you want to know that and observe it. And of course, you also learn about your own product reviews. How do I iterate my product? How do I improve it? What are the pain points that people are getting? What's version 2.0? You learn that from product reviews.
Yeah.
Another piece of product reviews is you want to not only, depending on your niche, your area, whatever, you not only want to know what's happening for your product reviews, you may want to watch what's happening for competitor product reviews within your space. You want to understand what the emerging wishes are, what the strengths of your competitors are, what their weaknesses are. All of that stuff can play into your product strategy.
And you can do that? You pull in other product reviews from other competitors?
Absolutely. So our tool will.
Is that more the Ecom Spy tool, or
no? That we can do that within Feedback 5.
You can. Okay.
Absolutely. So you can. It's very easy to add your own products. That's kind of almost automated if you want to do that. But if you've identified other target products that you feel like you want to watch reviews on, it's very easy to do, and you can add it. We have some people using it too that are not really sellers. They sell to Amazon, but they don't sell on Amazon, that are using our tool as well for product reviews. And there are a lot of brands too that are watching reviews, but they're also, they don't know we're a new brand. I mean, new brands can pop up out of nowhere and challenge even sometimes very big brands on Amazon. And so sometimes you don't know where this brand is going to go. And watching product reviews is one way that they can kind of have a little advanced warning system if something is coming up that they need to be aware of.
Jay, what's some ways people use, let's talk about, since we're talking about Feedback 5 that you never expected? Like that wasn't what it was intended for, but people, marketers are creative. What are some ways that they use it that you would not have expected?
Right. Well,
that are legal, of course.
I'm going to be careful what I say here.
Okay.
But the truth is, we've always been. You're thinking you're saying what I'm thinking. So, people do all kinds of things, especially even before the campaigns. And I probably shouldn't even talk about this because we really don't. We really try to take a fairly conservative view. We don't lecture people excessively, but we try to keep people out of trouble.
Yeah.
I mean,
like if someone, like an example, like someone sending daily emails or something. What's an example of someone that's abusing the system? I guess.
Well, I mean, we've had people that have done cross marketing on there. So, for example, you could develop a system where you're automatically blipping up pictures of related products. I mean, there are things you can do. So there are things you could do, which clearly that's a clear violation, right? You've had people that have designed fairly interesting and complex, invoices that could be sent.
Invoices? What do you mean?
Well, things that look like an invoice that would come back. So you could have something that kind of looks like an invoice.
Just so they open it, you mean? Or is that...
No, just kind of a professional touch. It comes back to the customer. There are all kinds of. There have been some very, very creative templates that people have created that have just obviously very surprising and stunning and creative that people have used. Obviously, there are things that push the envelope. One thing that we were very concerned about early on was triggering emails. We do it. We allow it, but we're concerned about it. You can trigger emails based on delivery. So we can say, look, I want to send an email on delivery. And Amazon has not really been concerned about it. And we want to keep it that way. Certainly it can be useful to time very much. We allow for timing by day. We allow for timing by hour of the emails that are sent. But we always want to be cautious because early on, early days of Seller Central, when we first started getting involved, actually that's not true. It was prohibited even then. At one point, Amazon prohibited sending of two types of emails: confirmation email and delivery email.
Why?
So by confirmation email was early on Amazon, sellers could send, thanks for the order. I've got it and I'm going to be processing it and shipping it soon. That's a confirmation email. A delivery email is your item is out for delivery and here's the tracking number, right? That's a delivery email. Both of those types of emails Amazon decided, and I don't know the year, but it was 10 years ago plus, they decided we're going to send those emails. That's our job. It's not the seller's job. And so they explicitly wrote into their seller agreements, you agree not to send order acknowledgement emails or delivery emails. So that's not a new rule. That's a very old rule. And so we've always been a little concerned about putting too much emphasis on delivery time, as there is this tendency out there for people to say, your thing shipped, here's the tracking number, you're going to be getting it soon. And that technically, if you're not careful enough, you're gonna kind of rub up against that Amazon rule. Now, if it's a feedback solicitation email, that's okay. If you happen to say, if it's mainly about feedback and you happen to say, here's your tracking number, or we know that you just got it, can you let us know how you felt about the service, that's all fine. But if the focus is on the delivery, then I think Amazon is asking and has asked ever since we've been in this business not to send those emails. And so that's one area where it gets a little dicey.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because you could time it, you could time it for after to basically get the feedback on the product, but people could use it for another way, which is not allowed by Amazon. Like if it gets sent and it gets received before, or they're talking even more about the delivery of it than the product feedback, that wouldn't be allowed in the terms.
Yeah, I think the core thing is it needs to be a feedback email and not a delivery email. And so if it's customer service, that aspect of the customer service, Amazon says we reserve that to ourselves. We reserve that your item has shipped communication to ourselves. Yeah. The feedback is something that Amazon is happy to allow.
Yeah.
And really they're not only happy to allow it, they really want it, because they really want to encourage that personal connection between the seller and the buyer, because they want to create a wow experience for the buyer.
Yeah. Jay, there's two questions I have, and obviously they can be answered generally. The one, I want to talk about the product reviews, and two, the campaign management, because those are both very important things. And obviously people can use Feedback 5. They can do it, if they have it just on their site, they can do it manually. So I want to talk kind of generally of some things that would help people. One, on the product review side, right? Are there any specific ways, or what are some of the ways you've seen good tactics for trying to reverse a negative review, or in a persuasion sort of way? What's worked with what you've seen? Because I'm sure through your system, people have tried probably pretty much everything to do that.
Yeah, there are ways you can automate responses and things to a negative product review, for sure. So product reviews are a little different from feedback reviews.
Yeah.
And so Amazon is a little more lenient when it comes to seller feedback about asking for removal. In fact, from day one, they have not only allowed it, but in some sense they have encouraged you to ask for removal once you have addressed the issue, not as a coercion or quid pro quo, but once you've asked. Product reviews are a little different, and if anything, Amazon is becoming more cautious about product reviews because of all the press that we all know about. And of course, the huge policy changes that have taken place on product reviews in this past year. So you're not really allowed to go out and ask or really in any way. They want you to leave it alone. They want that product review to be as pristine and neutral as possible. And so I would say that best practices are to listen and hear what the product review is, right? If the customer is upset because box is damaged, or they don't understand how this thing works, or whatever, if there's anything you can do to reach out to the customer and make them happy with their Amazon experience, do it, right? Do it. Now, to what extent you can ask them to correct the record or whatever, I think that's a very fine line. If obviously they've said something that's clearly false and you make it clear to them, I think it's pretty obvious that it would be nice for them to correct the record. But obviously, Amazon does not want anyone to be coerced in that regard.
Yeah.
And so, I know that really doesn't answer your question fully, but it's probably the best I can tell you.
Yeah.
Although I will say this, of course, the second thing you can do, obviously, which we mentioned earlier, is you can actually respond online. So if somebody says, this thing, doesn't do this, and you write back, well, if you actually touch that red button on the bottom, it will do that, and no problem, and you'll be all set. That's a good practice to do. Not to complain against your reviewer, but to be helpful. I would say that's a good thing to do. Another thing which may be a little surprising to some of your readers that are always very focused on negative product reviews, we do have some users that are also focused on positive reviews. They want to know what's positive about it. But interestingly enough, we had someone tell us recently that they're happy when they get positive reviews. Don't get me wrong. But they are concerned that it may be positive for the wrong reason.
Like what?
Well,
they're like,
in this case, without saying who it was, in this case, it was I want to say it's not quite a medical product, but it was a nutrition related product. Okay, and so it's possible that someone could write a positive review, but in an example could provide dosage information or usage information, which might not be recommended.
Right.
And so they are concerned to, number one, make sure there's correct information out in the marketplace. So we want to make sure that nobody's writing something on Amazon that's going to be misconstrued. Oh, I'm going to take 3 of these a day when I should take 1, or whatever it may be.
Right.
Number one, even though it may be better for them to use more than they should. But also there's a liability issue as well. So they kind of feel like we need to monitor this, because if people are egregiously writing things that are bad or even potentially dangerous about consuming this product, and we don't actually step in and correct the record, we may be on the hook. And so that's the example. Yeah. That's the best example I have, but I'm sure there are others as well.
And on the campaign management side of things, what are some, because again, this goes into different skills of frequency. When do you send it? How many do you send? What's best practices for that? If someone's starting, they go, okay, I want to start sending emails. How many and what frequency? Like you mentioned, the delivery is great. You send it 1 day after delivery. Do you send it a week after delivery? Do you send 3 more follow-up? What do you recommend as best practice for the optimal result for the business and for the customer?
Yeah. So there are certain general principles, right? Obviously, you ask once, you ask very politely, you start your message by saying, checking to make sure you're satisfied, and really making it a very customer service centric email, and offering to address a problem if there is any, capture that negative feedback before it happens, and then ask for the feedback. So those are best practices. Obviously you want to send it, FBA versus non-FBA. Your timing may be different. Your style may be different, depending on the circumstance. So how often? Yeah. It's generally safe to ask twice for feedback. Generally. Some people don't want to do it. It's okay. Everybody's situation is different. You ask once. Obviously, we monitor for feedback, positive and negative. So if anything does pop up, we don't solicit again. We also have lots of auto exclusions, because you may ask once, but the person may have contacted you by email. There may be some other factor which is a trigger to not solicit. So we've got a lot of very, very deep exclude capabilities to not solicit when you don't want to. But there are a lot of custom situations where people have custom products and custom brands where it can be reasonable to send more touch points, even more than 2. And I say that cautiously. It's a unique situation. Sometimes you have 1 for feedback, 1 for product review. There are reasons, and it really is part of it is the kind of person, everything you're selling has a certain niche, can have a niche. If it's a certain person is really into, I'll just make something up. I mean, let's say you're selling a an electronic product that is kind of really nichey and people are really into talking about it, or let's say it's a knitting product and everybody who buys a knitting product like this is really into this type of knitting or whatever. People sometimes, if your people like to converse about the product and about how they're using it, you're okay. If it's more like I just want to buy it and forget it type Amazon purchase, use your judgment. Maybe fewer touch points are wiser there.
Mm-hmm. So, as a general rule, people should probably send 2 in general, 1 after delivery, maybe 1 later on.
Our default when we first started is 1. We allowed 2. I would say do 1. If you're just a large seller selling all kinds of different things, do 1. And see how that goes, and then try 2 and measure and observe. And that's what we recommend. Mm-hmm. I would say that most people who do 2, I'm going to be careful here. Most people who do 2 do get a better response rate, but mm-hmm. there's some people that are more conservative and don't wish to do it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And is there a timing that's best?
So there are 2 timing questions. There's time of day, and there is a time after delivery, or time after order, and there's also obviously issues about location, state, country, whatever. So all of these things could be parameters. So this is an area where we may be coming out with some stats at some point on open rates at different times, open rates on different days of the week. Those are the 2 easy things to measure. Open rates, and you can segment by open rates. And so, but then you also have got other variables. You've got obviously the other big variable is what is your subject line. So it is true we do have a lot of data on that. I'm not sure exactly that I can give you any hard and fast rules.
Any good subject lines people should be using? Now you've become a copywriter expert because you've seen all these emails go.
Yeah, we do have some recommendations on that. I don't want to, since I'm not. I do know our guys have studied this, and I do know we do have some very specific opinions about this. But I'd be reluctant to say it here because I'm not sure how scientific it is.
Well, I'm only talking to you, so it's your opinion.
Yeah.
It's anecdotal a little bit.
Well, it is true that some subject lines are better, and putting a name. Now we're experimenting with emojis and subject lines. I don't know exactly what the final word is on emojis, but they're always looking at these things and studying them. And names, emojis, asking a question. There are different things that you can do, but I can also tell you that what works in 2012 may not have the same effect in 2016. The subject lines that will induce someone to open.
What have you seen with trends, Jay, with time of day or day of the week that works best?
I don't have it in front of me, the data, and so I'm gonna pass on that. However, I will go back to the team and have them. I will chat with you afterwards. I'll be happy to do that. So
I mean, does anything stick out to you, like more morning or afternoon? It doesn't have to be like 6:53 or something, but does anything stick out to you that was more morning or afternoon or early morning? Any like general time of the day that tend to be better than others?
Yeah. So what I'm going to tell you, you're going to think is a cop out, and it is a little bit. I'm going to say it depends.
Okay.
And it really does depend.
That's okay. Yeah. Tell me what.
Because it is true that an individual seller can experiment with a different time and get a different result, or they can choose to opt out. Some people want to opt. Well, there are different reasons people want to opt out over the weekends. Don't send over weekends. Hold those up and send them on Monday. Different people selling in different niches can experience different results. And so because of that, I don't know exactly. I don't have a bright line rule to give you. I do know I've heard anecdotally different. very different opinions about soliciting on weekends versus soliciting on a regular day. But it's a very good question. And I, on another interview,
people argue about that. Some people say weekends are good, some people don't.
Well, not only do they argue about it, but even more than that, they actually have data that shows that the results are different.
Yeah.
So what's the causality that drives those differences? That's where it gets more interesting.
And it's the same like health, like it's both health products or both the same genre.
I think if it's in the same genre, you're typically my view is when you get significant differences in behavior, you're dealing with a different customer element.
Right.
Genre. That would be my hypothesis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah. So I want to go back to what's interesting is you started this with just two of you, right? So I want to talk about the team part because you've built a team at this point. And that's also interesting because when you do the larger contract work, does the team have to expand and contract depending on the contract work? Now it's probably more of a steady team.
We've always been we've had organic growth. We haven't really had to contract for lack of business, fortunately. So we did. We started out very small. One developer, then we had a.
How'd you find that developer? Because you yourself.
Well, just somebody I met. We started working together.
Okay.
So. And then from there, you get a little more systematic about it. But we had we had two developers, and then we had a graphic designer early on, and we've had a little bit of in and out, but for the most part, we've had some of the core people early on are still here. Some of the early people on with Feedback 5 are still here, so that's great.
And then talk about the timeline. So we talked about Feedback 5 was the first product. What came after that?
Well, really, Smart Price really existed before Feedback 5, but we had the term Smart Price, but we've still never really SaaSified Smart Price. We have people who use it, they love it. It's a very customized pricing model that we've done for people, but we really don't market it at all. So Feedback 5 was our first major tool. And then Restock Pro would be our other major tool. And of course, Ecom Spy is an important tool. It's not, we don't sell that on a subscription model. We sell that on a, you can come and use as much of it as you want. You can use it for free to start out. If you like it, you can just buy credits and use it. So
Ecom Spy, you're saying?
Ecom Spy. We have some people that buy, 1 billion credits, and I'm exaggerating slightly, and spend a whole year or two using them, and other people that buy them every few months when they need them. So,
what do people use the Ecom Spy for that's been valuable?
So I don't really know all the ways people use it because people use it in ways that I've heard people use it in ways that we never anticipated they would use it.
Yeah, like what?
Market monitoring and checking out what's going on. But really, its real initial idea behind it is that people are looking at opportunities. In the market. They're looking at bulk opportunities. They're looking for those needles, hopefully not just a needle, but needles in a haystack to get into the game. And so our view is that, a lot of Amazon sellers are going to be data savvy, and really what they're after, whether they're doing an opportunity buy of a certain number of goods or whether they're working with a new wholesaler or whatever, we're assuming that they can get a spreadsheet and from whatever it is that they're buying from. And that spreadsheet's going to have UPC codes or EANs, or maybe even ASINs sometimes, but and that they want to have, whether it's 100 items or whether it's 10,000 items that they're trying to evaluate. They want to understand, is it, number one, worth working with a supplier, and number two, if it is worth working with the supplier as an Amazon seller, what do I want to concentrate on? What area of his products do I want to concentrate on? And so the idea is you can load this data up. We can give you a temperature of the market at that time, exactly what your profitability would look like selling these products. And it's just a very fast evaluation tool to understand whether you want to take up an opportunity with supplier or what products you want to focus on. It's not magic. You still need to exercise judgment, but it allows you to get a lot of data very, very rapidly to make an informed judgment on a large catalog.
Yeah.
So it's very simple idea, but also very powerful for those that need this type of tool.
Jake, so another question about pricing. So it seems like the Ecom Spy pricing model is different from Feedback 5, which is your traditional SaaS. How do you decide on the pricing model and then the actual price?
So, so really, we just, for Ecom Spy, we just thought, well, this is something that we're going to start it out. We're just going to price it on a per unit basis. It's going to be simple. People won't feel like they're locked in. They can buy as much as they want. That's just what we started because we were trying it, and we've never changed it. So we could very well add a subscription model onto that gives you a more of a certain number of hits. Not sure that decision's still something we could do down the line. In terms of pricing, we try to develop a rough sense. Early on there was, we didn't know a lot about pricing. We just tried to see, what is fair, what do we think we can do in order to make ends meet and still keep growing the product. So we made educated judgments based on all the things we knew about the market, about the product, about the costs. Nowadays in SaaS world, there's just lots of fancy models and people out there that are software pricing experts and all of that. I can't say that we're experts in that.
No, I just asked that because, like we were talking before, one person goes, "Oh my God, you're only selling this for $20." Yeah, and I would pay $150, and then the other person's like, "This is way too expensive." So you have to go, you have to price it somewhere.
Sure.
So what's your method?
Yeah, and what every business does, whether you're it's a pharmaceutical company or whether it's a software company, whether you're buying Salesforce or whatever, there's always market differentiation. And how do you differentiate? Some people can only afford this much, some people can afford a lot more. So you allocate capabilities and you scale your price of the product, whether it's based on volume or sales amounts or capacity utilization. You come up with something that's fair, and also features. You can add more features at higher levels. So you come up with something that's fair, and that allows the people that are going to get more value out of it and that can get more value out of it. You give them more value and you charge more. And those that don't need as much value and can't afford it, you charge less. And it's never perfect, and that's the way it happens with a lot of software these days. You'll see a pricing menu and you'll see it scales one way or the other, and we're no different. And a lot of people have come in. I don't say a lot, but several people, as you well know, have come into the market after us, offering feedback management tools. And we've always looked at their pricing models. Now it's a little different, but many people just replicated our pricing model very closely.
They just looked at it.
I don't know. Maybe they did their own study and decided that was the right one, or maybe they just looked at ours and said, we're just going to copy.
They've been doing it for a while. It's working. We might as well just do it.
So we haven't changed it a lot, but we are very excited. We actually, our team has been working on a new pricing model that's going to be pretty exciting.
For which one?
For Feedback 5.
Okay.
So it's going to be coming out, really in a few weeks. I don't think anybody's going to be forced into it, but I think a lot of people will want to do it. And so one of the things that it's really going to be focused on and optimizing on is we're seeing more and more sellers that have multiple marketplaces, whether it's in Europe or maybe whatever.
On Amazon. So
on Amazon.
Not just like, we're not talking Amazon to Walmart to eBay. It's more Amazon Canada, Amazon Mexico.
Multiple Amazon marketplaces.
Gotcha.
And multiple stores or whatever. And so one of the things we're doing is we're going to make it very, very easy and cost effective to be able to manage, to manage multiple stores. So you'll be able to manage multiple stores on Amazon with a single, essentially a single Feedback 5 account. So we're pretty excited about that, and that's going to be, coming out here pretty soon. Yeah.
I always ask Jay, since the Inspired Insider, what's been a low moment in the business and what's been one of the proudest moments?
That's a good question. So, I mentioned a few times early on where we were doing custom projects, in that we had people that couldn't pay, didn't pay. I mentioned that case of where somebody, filed bankruptcy, and these were really nice people, and we were really bummed because they really had negotiated with us very hard to deliver value for them and hold off on the payment. And that was a pain point for us. And it was also a pain point because there were times where, we're doing work and we're doing some custom work, but also investing in platforms where, things were,
the money's not coming in and it's going out type
cash
of thing.
Flow. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
You need to pay salaries and you need to watch cash flow. I wouldn't call it a terribly low moment, but there were times where there's uncertainty.
Yeah.
And you realize that, this is either going to work or it's not. And if it doesn't work, you're going to pivot, you're going to do something else, or you're going to have to contract. Right. You don't want to contract. No entrepreneur does. But they realize, all entrepreneurs realize that if you're going to take a risk, it may or may not work. Even the most cautious, careful plans, you've got to take risks, and you hope it's going to work, and you build all your risk, management into it. But not everything works perfectly. Do you pivot? Do you do something else, or what? So there's certainly, and of course we still have that today. We've got lots of fun, and we think very valuable projects that we're working on that we can deliver value into the market. But are we certain that it's certain that that value is going to be delivered? Are we certain people are going to pay for it? Are we certain that somebody else is not planning on doing the same thing exactly when we are? No, we're not certain. So.
Yeah. So on the flip side, one of the proudest moments.
Well, in some ways, getting that offer for the contract was a proud moment. Even though we didn't take it, it was a proud moment. It was a nice validation. Amazon had recommended us. We did work. We got huge kudos from this large company that said, you guys made a major difference in us getting this $1 billion contract. I mean, I know it wasn't all us, but they said some very nice things about us, and we really appreciated hearing that. So that was a proud moment, even though we had to say no. And the fact that we said no was also a proud moment because it was a tough call, and we were proud that we made it and didn't get sucked into something that we weren't really destined to do. Yeah. So there have been other proud moments. Obviously, we've met certain milestones. We're kind of celebrating our 10th anniversary.
Congratulations! Yeah.
We've published a milestone where something like 45 million positive feedbacks that we've helped get.
Wow.
We're very, very proud of some of those milestones. But those are some of the big ones.
Yeah, I love it. Jay, I want to point people towards your site, and I have a last question for you. I really appreciate your time on this. People can go to a few places. I believe ecommengine.com. It's ECOM engine.com. They can go to feedback5.com. Where else can we point people towards they can discover and explore your tools?
Yeah, thanks. So ecommengine.com, feedback5.com, spelled out 5. Of course, it should work either way. Restock Pro, RESTOCK Pro, PRO.com, restockpro.com, and Ecom Spy, ECOMSPY.com. Those are our main websites. Maybe more to come, but all of those can be found on ecommengine.com. So definitely appreciate us checking us out, and we're a very open book company. So we really enjoy feedback, whether it's glowing feedback, of course we love, but we love we love almost as much feedback that's constructive as well.
Yeah.
And
So last question, I actually have two questions. One is, obviously we talked about the Feedback 5 Ecom, the Ecom Spy, Restock Pro, and Smart Price. I'm curious what other softwares you recommend other people, obviously that you don't feel the need for. What else out there do you recommend to sellers to complement what you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we don't personally get into the business of recommending a lot of software. We do have certain software partners that are on our website, some coaches and things that are on our website. But, there's some really great shipping software out there that helps people do shipping. I mentioned ShipStation earlier. That's a good product. There are a lot of very solid ERP products out there. These are, some friends of ours. I don't necessarily need to mention any of them, but There are some really good ERP products that are multi-market channel. You know, I hate to mention some and then exclude others because there are a number of them. There are a number
You're
of them
very
that
diplomatic.
I know, maybe to a fault. There are some really good ones out there, and there's some good people that are really passionate about the marketplace and that produce really good products. There's some strengths. Some of them have strengths. Some are better than others. So I'd say, you know, ERP tools, shipping tools are very important. And of course, there's some good research tools. We're not the only research game in town. There's some research tools that will, you know, extrapolate based on sales rank and things and show you what sales is, and, you know, keyword tools and things like that are out there that are an important component of a good Amazon ecosystem.
Is there a place you go to learn or subscribe to kind of get whatever's out on the market, cutting edge tools or information in the e-commerce world? Where do you read?
So our job is really all day, every day. I mean, not just my job, but our product team's job. They're supposed to really understand the market. They're supposed to understand what people are getting value out of. So yeah, we obviously internet retailer, e-commerce bites, you name it. We keep up with a lot of blogs too. We have a lot of good partners that are coaches or that are, you know, gurus and experts in the Amazon marketplace. We obviously read them, and with some reluctance, I will say that we do sometimes learn things from some of our competitors as well. We'll read their blogs and we'll learn something. We try to learn wherever we can and try to stay really up to speed on the market and understand what's going on, because really Amazon it's a great market. It's an exciting market. It's a global market, and it is fast moving.
Yeah.
So what is true today will
you got to keep your finger on the pulse.
Probably be true next year to a large extent, but there are other things that are going on, and so you can't just learn it once and be done.
Yeah. Conferences that you like. Obviously, you're going to Prosper Show. What other conferences?
We go to SCOE. We go to Ecom Chicago. We've gone to Jim Cockrum's conference. You know, those are, and we've probably been to a few other. We've been to Ed's conference in New York, small seller conference. So those are some of the ones we've gone to. You know, we discuss among ourselves. I'd love to hear your advice. Should we be going to more conferences? Because we like I said earlier, we never
did. You go to IRCE also?
We'll be going there this year. Whether we display or not, I don't know, but we'll definitely be there.
How do you determine whether you're going to display or just attend?
We just talk about it. I can't say that we have any scientific reason.
I don't know if there's like more Amazon sellers, or, you know, because IRC probably is.
IRC traditionally has been much more broad-based. Very few Amazon sellers.
Exactly.
Last few years, a little different. You've had pre-shows that are Amazon-centric. Things may be changing.
Yeah.
Amazon is so big now that
you
can't not know about them.
Right. So last question, Jay. Culture. What do you do to maintain culture? I'm talking to one of your staff, and she was very big on you getting the word out about Ecomm Engine and just you talking, because she said, we have a great guy at the helm of this company. So you're doing something to foster a really good culture and people who love the company itself. And so I'm curious what you do for the team to maintain that.
That's a good question. Well, I'm not sure who you're talking about, but that's nice that this staff member said that. And so really, you know, you talk to any entrepreneur that's gotten a business to a certain point, and you know, what's the famous quote? Culture eats strategy for lunch. And there's an element of truth to that. Certainly, you need to have a good market. Certainly, you need to have a good strategy, but you can have all those things. And if you don't have folks that are excited and really rowing the boat all in the right direction, and really caring about customers and caring and loving what they do, you're not going to get as much done. And so, and also, you know, it's good to be passionate about your job, and it's good to enjoy your job. And why would you want to do it if you weren't? I mean, obviously you need to eat, but why would you need to have that passion too? So it's important to us that we really work well together. And so we try to build a team where everybody's views are honored, where we have good communication, where we really, we're trying to empower sellers. That's our mission, really, to empower sellers with great software. But it sounds cliche-ish, but we really also want to empower our staff, each and every one of them, to be the best they can do at what they do, and to really think about their individual job, but not just about their job. Think about the customer, because that's our value stream, what we're delivering to our customers. So everybody is empowered to think about the big picture of what we're doing for our customer, and to step up to the plate.
What do you do to foster that? Like, I'm just curious, some like tactical things. Like, we do a meeting every Tuesday and Thursday, or something that gets the communication, or I don't know, you do a company outing, or I don't know, what are some of the tactical things?
Yeah, we definitely do that. We definitely have company outings and dinners and things like that. But, we have a meeting cadence at our company. We have, weekly meeting cadences for different groups of the company. We have a monthly all company meeting cadence where we announce certain things and have updates and take Q&A and honor people for great accomplishments that they've done in the company. Those are some of the things we do. We share in the success of the company, I think fairly openly and generously, and I think people appreciate that. Those are some of the things we do. But really, a lot of it is really attitude, and whether or not it goes back to that empowerment question. And when we tell people, we really want you to not just view your job in a tunnel, but really think about the big picture, and you're at the table on decisions that are being made. I think that empowers people, and I think it ultimately leads to more engaged employees that again are more passionate about doing right by the customer. Yeah,
you're bringing the process to them, so they're invested in the process. And that's what you did. Sound like you did all along, even from that big contract, in the beginning.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Jay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Everyone should check out ecommengine.com. All their products, all their information's on there. And thank you again.
Yeah, great talking with you, Jeremy. Thank you very much.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like $100 grand.